Hello, welcome to My Bike Build. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about how my little guy learned how to ride his pedal bike by the age of 2.5 years old. Let's get it. So I probably learned how to ride my first bike without training wheels by around the age of 6. Get in the comment section, let us know when you started riding or if you have any memories of your first ride. And before this, I did have some training wheels on my first bikes, but our son, he was confidently riding and pedaling a bike without training wheels by the time he was 2.5. And the wild part, he's not some crazy outlier. The world record that we looked up was 2 years and 3 months. He's just a kid who loves to climb and he's not afraid to fall. So it was not magic, it was a method, and it completely changed how I think about teaching kids how to ride today. We're breaking down the exact steps that we took as a family and why the research says they work, and one big thing my partner was absolutely adamant that we never use. So obviously this is a bike channel. I have a passion for riding my bike, and so luckily for him, he was born into a family of people who like to move their bodies and we like to do athletics. I ride bikes, my partner does roller derby. And the first step is we started as soon as he was able. The research says that basically by 1, we can put him into the Yep Maxi seat and I could ride him on the back of our bike. So basically as soon as he was able to do that, we just did that. And this wasn't about teaching him how to ride per se, but it was about the association. It made him feel normal being on a bike, fun and comfortable, and that it was just a part of our lives. He would just come along for the ride, enjoy the view. And he was always very, very calm on the bike. He used to actually, when he was really young, take naps on the bike. And so for his first birthday, his grandparents got him a retrospect push bike. As soon as he could walk, he's pushing this thing through the living room. And by 18 months, we could move him up to the balance bike and we could start taking him outside. This is where he learned the single most important skill, which is balance. So training wheels hold the bike rigid so the kids never learn how to steer or keep themselves upright. A balance bike forces them to learn that from day one. They learn to control their speed with their feet and they can push down anytime they feel scared, which helps them build their confidence. So I have to give a huge shout out to my partner Chelsea, who became a thrift store bike hunter. Now she got him a balance bike from the thrift store. I also got him a bike on Amazon, a balance bike that was about $30 or something like that. But you can really find some good deals. We live in the Seattle area, so she goes to different parts of the Seattle for work and is able to just kind of pop into the Goodwill and find some deals on bikes, which she was able to. She got a balance bike for him, and then eventually she was able to find a Guardian bike in really good condition. And these bikes are about up to $250 new, which she got it for $10 at the Goodwill. Now, this was a game changer because it actually fit him, and you can move the seat up and down as he starts to get a little bigger. And here's where the first key move came, is that we were able to take the pedals off the bike. So essentially we turned that bike into a balance bike, and because he was already used to using the balance bike, it allowed him to get used to this new bike, and the weight of it's considerably heavier because it's an actual bike with all the pedals and the chains and the drivetrain on it. And so it allowed him to get really comfortable on it as a transition, and so he already knew how to balance, and so he was able to glide seamlessly from one bike to the next. And so our first cycling adventures with his pedal bike, we would just treat them like family walks where we'd take the pedals off and he could use his Guardian bike like a balance bike. But sometimes we would take the pedals with us. And if he ever vocalized or we asked him, hey, do you want to try pedaling? He would tell us, yeah, I want to try it. And then we'd try our best to put him on. And what I would also do is sometimes Chelsea would walk and I would ride my bike so that I could model pedaling for him, and we'd be like, look, Daddy's using his pedals to go. And then I'd ride up, down the street, and then back up. And so he could see me using my feet to propel the bike. Now, one important thing is to make sure that you're going slightly downhill. You don't want it to be too steep, obviously, because he's just learning. And you want him still to be able to, if he feels he's going too fast or we get to an intersection, be able to stop the bike with his feet. So try to make sure you're on a slight incline or you're on the flats completely, so that he's able to just build up his strength with the pedaling. Because pedaling uphill right off the bat when you don't know how to pedal at all is going to be really challenging for balancing. And so, those little micro adjustments you do when you're riding your bike of steering, that's going to be super helpful in learning how to balance. And then doing that downhill is going to help you keep that balance when you're just starting out. So once he had the balancing down and he had the pedaling down, the next challenge was the braking. So this is where me riding on our family walks, I'd ride with him, and we would just practice braking in terms of, I would show him, hey, I'm braking on my bike. Mom would say, hey, daddy wants to stop. So he's holding on to the brakes, and he could kind of see me stopping the bike without putting my feet on the ground. Then after the bike has stopped, I could put my feet on the ground. And so slowly over time, he was able to get this. And then also, we are still riding him on the back of our bike with the Yep Maxi. We got the electric Expedition, so he rides on the back of that. And we're just really deliberate about saying, hey, I want to stop now. Let me hold on to the brakes. And then even to the point where he has started to notice and vocalize, hey, daddy or mommy's holding onto the brakes because we want to stop. So he'll just repeat that to us. And so he's starting to learn through just watching from the back of the bike that, hey, we could be going down a really steep hill, but I'm using my brakes and not my feet to stop. Now, I want to give the utmost credit to Chelsea, even though I would say this was a family effort. My part in this was just being the bike enthusiast. Like, I would take him sometimes on his balance bike and everything like that. But Chelsea has way more patience than I do. And if it were not for her, he would not be riding a pedal bike without training wheels. There's no way, because I would have probably wanted to use the training wheels. I probably wouldn't have taken him out as many times as she has taken him out, because I think we're both patient in different ways. And I think this is one thing where my patience was not as great as hers. She had way more patience than I did in terms of, he likes to be silly, he likes to run away. And it's not a perfect, you're not like going on a bike ride per se, right? It's more of a walk because he's still a toddler. And so if he sees some pretty flowers that he likes, or he sees a butterfly, or he sees the neighborhood cat, he's going to stop. And we're going to talk about that. So you just have to realize that it's not like a cycling lesson, as it's kind of cycling immersion, where we're going on a walk and we're using the bicycle for him so that he can get comfortable on it. But you can't look at it as like, we're going to go for a bike ride, because again, he's a toddler. He's going to want to make about 1,000 pit stops if you're going like half a mile or something, or a quarter of a mile. He's going to make so many pit stops in the neighborhood because he's just a curious kid. He wants to look at flowers. He wants to look at the world around him. And so you've got to be used to that. And then you've also got to be used to the fact that when it's time to go home and we're riding back home, you're going to sometimes be struggling with that because he doesn't want to go home, and he might have a lot of big feelings about that, and he might cry, and he might, say that he wants to go a different direction than you do, and he might actually go in a different direction than you do. So there's a lot of these little things in between that just take a ton of patience, and it's a lot easier when you have two parents doing that versus one parent doing it on its own, because he might get halfway through his bike ride and just be like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And so you might have to carry his bike back, or you might have to find a way to encourage him to make it back home. Or if he's going uphill and he decides, I'm not trying to pedal uphill, you just have to be ready for that and know that, look, it's not going to be, I can't have a perfect, I'm going out for 20 minutes and it's going to take exactly 20 minutes for this ride. It might take you half an hour to 40 minutes because you might have a big breakdown. You might have a crying breakdown, or a little bit of these big feelings moment, and you've got to take that time to talk with him, bring him off the ledge and say, okay, let's try to make it home together. So I really want to overemphasize that without the group effort, it would have been impossible. And really, without Chelsea, he would not be riding a bike like he is today. So I'd say in conclusion, the process of him learning how to ride his bike without his pedals was a process. It was done in steps. And it's cool to see him ride so young, because of all his peers, I don't think any of his peers or his classmates or any of the kids in the neighborhood are this young riding a bike. When people see him ride a bike without training wheels, they're really impressed. And you can really tell that mom, that Chelsea has just kind of this sense of pride about it. And I mean, it's cool. It's amazing to watch. But, from this video, just taking away that, number one, you're going to have to have a ton of patience, because toddlers are not, like none of us, right? They're imperfect beings. And so you can't always see it as a cycling lesson. Like, I am going to teach him how to ride a bike today. You kind of just has to be a process of exposure and just making sure that each step of the way, what Chelsea was really good at was graduating him to the next steps, right? Where if it were me, he might still just be doing his balance bike. Right. And so from his push bike when he was really, really small and just able to start walking, to Chelsea being like, let's move him to the balance bike, to Chelsea being like, let's move him to the pedal bike and take the pedals off, then put the pedals on, then learn how to pedal, then learn how to brake. It was just a process that, over maybe the course of, he's 2.5 now. So, I'd say about 1.5 years it took him from the time we started him on a bike or his push bike to now. So it took about 1.5 years, right? Which is not a one lesson type of thing. It's something that just over the process of time, it started with him being on our bikes and going on family bike rides as a passenger, to him being like, well, I want to do that too, because naturally the kids are going to want to do what the parents do. They see us riding bikes. He's like, as soon as he can start talking, he's like, well, I want to ride our bike. And so I would say just learning that the way we were able to do it, we did it in steps and in stages. It wasn't like a one day we're going to just teach him how to ride and he knows. And so I think the biggest thing that to take away from the transition to the balance bike to the pedal bike was that, which I would not have done without Chelsea, is that the no training wheels. She was adamant about not having any training wheels. And I can see now why, especially with the results we're seeing, why that was such a good thing to do, because, you forget that when you're riding, there are lots of nuances to riding a bike, and one of them are those micro steering adjustments that you have to do to keep yourself balanced. And you don't get that at all when you have training wheels. So the muscle memory that you're learning in terms of using your steering as a form of balancing, especially when you're going at low speeds, because he's not going to be blazing down the street right away. And the faster you go, the more the bike will stay upright. But the slower you go, the more you have to make those micro adjustments steering to keep it upright. And also it just makes the transition from training wheels to no training wheels just really scary and hard. Whereas if you never have the training wheels, you always have to learn how to keep that balance, that which is one of the biggest first stages. The pedaling will come later, but the balance is the first thing. And also with training wheels, they can be uneven on bumpy ground. And so if you hit the wrong patch, you can fall over. And so, the research does say that training wheels are better not put on the bike. So it's better to leave them off and just, have that confidence as a parent. But without the training wheels, that means you're going to have to put that extra effort into helping them build that confidence. And then you're going to have to incorporate cycling into your regular routine, and every kid is going to be obviously different. Our kid is a huge risk taker. He really does not mind falling. He's not a huge crier. He has somewhat of a higher tolerance for pain. Most of the time he cries because he's frustrated versus like he's super injured. And so it's less about teaching them to ride per se and about giving them enough exposure so they can experiment on the bike and they start to teach themselves. You give them little tips along the way, but ultimately they're building the muscle memory by being on the bike. So I would honestly say, if you are considering teaching your kid how to ride, understand that it's going to take about 1 year, maybe 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. Start them on a balance bike, skip the training wheels, be patient, model the behavior, so ride with them. 2 parents or 2 grown-ups will always be better than 1. If you can only do it on your own, that is what it is. But our experience was, Chelsea and I would do solo missions with him, but if we didn't have each other to go together, because, when one parent's getting frustrated, the other parent can be chill. And then when I'm getting frustrated, she can be chill. And then we kind of balance each other out where we're not both frustrated at the same time. We almost take turns taking the frustration. And so, and it just has to be fun. Make it fun. Have a lot of words of encouragement. Be very vocal about the successes they have. Let them know that, if they fall or something bad happens, that it's okay. It's all right to cry. It's all right to feel a little frustrated. Try not to tell them like what they should or shouldn't be doing, that they should be doing this by now or they shouldn't. It's a journey. It's a process, and they'll naturally just learn when they do. And so thank you for watching. Get in the comment sections if you have any questions, or you just have to make a comment in general, or, if you remember when you started riding your first bike and how you did it, or how your kids were able to start riding their first bike. I would love to hear it. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.